have that concern as we're moving through neighborhoods and business districts where we're talking to people. But my understanding is that for the most part, businesses that had that kind of damage have been in the process of securing their facilities all day. So it has not been an issue.
What's the injury report? Is there any what are the injuries?
I don't believe there are.
Yep. Yeah.
So, hang on just a second. Let me pull up the report. So at this point, by 3:30 today, AFD had responded to 273 responses. 56 of those were EMS. We don't have any significant injuries caused by the earthquake. We had 49 gas leaks, eight structure fires, only 4 of which were actual working fires, and no injuries, no fatalities or injuries from the fire or the structural collapse. So fortunately, it sounds like most people, as soon as they felt the earthquake, they took action, what we ask them always to do, and took care of themselves.
So what's the lesson to be learned from this? If this was kind of a, could have been worse kind of situation, what's the lesson everybody should take away?
Always have your go kit. Have your emergency preparedness kit is probably the #1 thing. And all of us who live in Alaska are very well aware of our earthquake potential. So be prepared. Have your escape plan out of your house. Know what to do if the earth starts shaking. And have your preparedness kit available. So in case their infrastructure damage was even worse and we didn't have water, we should be prepared to survive for a week. At least a week. Make sure that you have all your supplies necessary. And back to check on your neighbors. Make sure everybody near you is in good shape too.
Are we good? All right.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you again for everybody that tuned in and for coming in. The next press conference will be tomorrow morning at 10:30. We will announce location later. We'll send out a press release letting you know when that will be or where that will be. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to go to the mic.
I will have to get I know that it's
Okay, as you just heard, we heard from Police Chief Justin Dahl, AFD Chief Jody Hetrick. Now, the aftershock, she said, could be felt up for a week. And in Anchorage, water you can boil just as a precautionary note. Girdwood, your water should be okay. And this is very important if you do live in the valley or plan on heading out there. Inbound Glen Highway, it's going to close at 5 p.m. today. Inbound Glen Highway will close at 5 o'clock. So there will only be an outbound lane going out to the valley from Anchorage. And there is a shelter right now at the Egan Center if need be. And you will see a lot of police presence throughout the next few days. And we'll have more in just a moment. All that shaking, a 7.0 magnitude quake rocks South Central, and we'll have a look at the damage and closures as the aftershocks continue tonight. Good evening, I'm Megan Mazurek. Thanks for watching tonight. That quake, it hit South Central at 8:29 this morning. It was 25 miles deep, and those aftershocks, were feeling them throughout the day. Those roads cracked. It caused major damage on the Glen Highway and slowed traffic for hours, as well as Minnesota and International is what we're looking at right now. There was an overpass that collapsed, and it caused traffic to gridlock at a very slow pace. There was a sinkhole near Eklutna as well that slowed traffic there. This is a live look, though, at Minnesota and International Road. They're doing work to get this road back up and functioning, as earlier today we saw major cracks and damage to that road infrastructure at Minnesota Drive and International Road tonight. So this is a live look at that intersection where that pass has seen significant damage. And I want to turn it over to Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry tonight. She has more on that quake that we felt today and those aftershocks that we're feeling right now.
Yeah, the aftershocks likely to continue for days, weeks, even months to come. Let's take a look at the map this evening. Again, magnitude 7.0 as reviewed by the Alaska Earthquake Center. This hitting at 8:29 this morning. They reviewed and found that this was 7 miles north of Anchorage, just 27 miles deep. And on the scale of earthquakes, that is a relatively shallow quake. The reason why the shaking was so violent was because of how close it was to Anchorage and how shallow it was, in addition to how large it was. Again, a magnitude 7.0. What you're looking at now is some of the more extreme aftershocks that we have seen. Again, we've seen at least magnitude 5 aftershocks. We have seen 123 magnitude 4.0 and larger aftershocks from this quake. Looking at aftershocks of magnitude 3.0 and larger now. Again, 313 aftershocks of 3.0 in magnitude or greater. And again, we will continue to see these aftershocks likely coming in. Here's a map of what the seismometers look like. Again, from the Alaska Earthquake Center, UAF. You can see the individual seismometers showing just how long that shaking lasts. We saw about 30 seconds of east to west shaking, some locations seeing shaking even longer than that. So here's the danger for aftershocks tonight and in the coming days. There's only a 4% chance for a magnitude 7.0 or larger aftershock. So it is extremely unlikely that we could see an aftershock that large as the initial quake. However, there is a 27% chance that we could see an aftershock of 6.0 or larger, and they are saying at the Alaska Earthquake Center that they anticipate 1 to 3 of those. A 78% chance for a magnitude 5.0 or larger quake. Again, we've already seen over 100 of those, and it's likely that we'll see up to 2,200 aftershocks greater than a magnitude 3 possible. Again, not only today, but in the coming days, weeks, and months, which is often the case of what we see with an earthquake of this nature. Again, this is the largest quake that the region has seen since January of 2016. However, that one was about 160 miles offshore. So this is easily the largest and most destructive earthquake that we have seen here in Anchorage in quite some time. Megan?
Thank you. We'll check back with you a little bit later in the show. Earthquake response efforts. Anchorage police briefing the public from the Emergency Operations Center. And KTVA 11's Lauren Maxwell was at the press conference, which began about 30 minutes ago. And she joins us now with the very latest. Lauren.
That's right. Well, we're here with Municipal Manager Bill Falsey, and he pretty much gave us a rundown on some of the things that we know so far. One of the most exciting things that I heard today is no fatalities and no significant injuries from the earthquake.
That's right. I think we're a blessed community in that our building codes that have been in place since the 1964 earthquake largely spared us from the worst of what this could have been. I think if we were a different community in a different place, this could have been a catastrophic event. What we're seeing now is lots of reports of low-level,
So hang
widespread
up and
damage,
come right
but
back up,
nothing that
AJ.
really rises to the level of catastrophe.
Now, we do know that there are quite a few folks that don't have power at this point. Can you give us a little bit of an update on that?
That's right. Earlier today, we had thousands of people without power. You know that we're served by 3 different utilities. ML&P serves the old core downtown area. We lost power to the military base and to downtown. Parts of downtown remain out, but the military base is now functioning. Chugach Electric at one point had thousands of outages. They're now down to around 250, and they're looking good to get those cleaned up in short order. Matanuska Electric Association, which serves the northern end of our community, is still looking at some significant challenges. We just had a report that we've had some new power come online in Eagle River, but we still probably have several thousand folks on the north side of the municipality without power.
Okay, now another thing I thought was a little concerning is AWWU talking about boiling your drinking water. This is something that is recommended?
That's right. We've put that out as a precautionary measure now. So the water and wastewater utility is reporting that we have 28 mainline water breaks. When we have a mainline water break, it is possible for the water supply to incur some contamination. We have no reports of that happening now. But out of abundance of caution, we have issued a notice you can boil your water to give yourself that peace of mind that what's coming out of your tap is still safe to drink.
Okay, and obviously they're working on those water main breaks as we speak.
Right. No one's going home tonight.
Okay. Anything else that's important for people to know right now?
Right now, I think take care of your loved ones, take care of your neighbors. We're having folks shelter in place. If you can stay off the roads, that's helpful to us. We're looking for people to use texts rather than voice services on their cell phones. We're still getting a significant volume of activity on the cellular services. If we can get some of that off, that would clear up the lines for emergency communications and for other critical communications. Other than that, if you haven't subscribed to Nixle, now is a good time. NIXLE.com. That's where APD is pushing out its updates, and we're going to try to give as quality information as we can in real time as possible.
And we also heard from Chief Dahl, who told us that we can expect to see a bigger APD presence over the next day or two, not because there have been problems reported, but just to prevent them.
That's right, to give the community that peace of mind and to deal with the significant traffic routing issues that we have still going on and we'll likely be seeing over the coming days.
Okay, and just a quick thing, if people are out in the cold, if they don't have power, there is shelter available to them. What types of services?
Yeah, right now we have had a warming center at the Egan Convention Center downtown. We have tasked folks at the Emergency Operations Center with building a plan to make sure there is a warm place for people to be for the next 24 hours. We'll have more updates as the night progresses on where folks who may be stranded or who may be in a place that does not have warmth that they can go.
Okay.
Yes,
All right. Anything
1, 2,
else
3,
you want
4,
folks
5.
to know
I
right
can
now?
hear you just fine.
No, just take care of your loved ones, hug your loved ones, stay safe, everybody.
Okay, and we're going to take it back to you guys now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Well, Governor Walker surveying the damage from today's quake. KTVA 11's Daniela Rivera was at the press conference with him earlier today, and she joins us now with the very latest. Daniela.
That's right, Megan. It was here at J Bear, and let me tell you, we've been talking about those aftershocks, those tremors. We felt one during that news conference. Governor Bill Walker said he surveyed the damage today from a Black Hawk helicopter looking at the area from above, and what he mostly saw was damage to our infrastructure, our roads here in South Central. He issued a disaster declaration, which has been accepted by the federal government, that will generate federal relief funds for Alaskans. Today, President Donald Trump tweeted that he will spare no expense to help Alaskans, and Governor Walker said that he believes that. He said President Trump called him multiple times today, checking in on the situation. We'll let you listen to what he said about that federal help. Okay, we don't have that soundbite ready to play for you. We're going to bring it back to you in just a little while. Now, as for immediate impacts to Alaskans, we asked what the time frame will be to getting these roadways back to where they're drivable, and he said that is not going to be a brief or short project. It's not going to be done in a week or two. It's going to require patience and a lot of work and time. You know, Governor Walker also talked about the 1964 earthquake and how far Alaska has come come since then, the building codes, and he talked about renovations he made to his own house, things he did to strengthen it. He even teared up while speaking about that and just expressed such gratitude that we have not seen the loss of life here in Alaska that other regions see with earthquakes of smaller magnitudes than the one we saw today. We saw a 7.0 magnitude earthquake in South Central, but Governor Walker said Alaska's response to that he would rate at a 10. We also heard briefly from Mayor Ethan Berkowitz. He just thanked Alaskans for pulling together, not bombarding emergency services today. Alaskans were asked not to call 911 unless they had a true emergency, and he thanked Alaskans for honoring that, pulling together, and handling problems on their own. And that's the gist of what we talked about there. Again, there's no dollar amount on those federal funds. We don't know what that will look like or how much, but Governor Walker said that wasn't really part of the conversation. President Trump didn't tell him, we'll help you this much. He just said, we're going to fix Alaska. Megan.
All right, Daniela reporting live for us at J-Bear tonight. Thank you, Daniela. And after the quake, many people took to the grocery stores and gas stations to stock up. KTVA 11's Cassie Sherm, she's out at the grocery store out in Fred Meyer tonight talking with people. Hi, Cassie.
Hey, Megan. So I'm at the Fred Meyers on Abbott, and just to give you guys a sight here, a lot of people have been moving in and out, and some would say it's even a little chaotic right now with how many people are trying to get stocked up and ready to go in case some of this food runs out. Now, we've run into many different situations where a lot of the Fred Meyers cars and some of the other grocery chains have been closed due to not enough food or anything like that. And so there have been people kind of moving in and out. And I actually went inside some of those gas stations, and they were pretty busy, lines all the way back and forth. And I'm going to show you guys kind of stepping back in front of here. But the gas station right that you guys are looking at right now, that actually ran out of gas earlier today. They obviously filled it up so there is more gas now, but gas lines have been really, really long. Some people have waited hours to get their car filled up. I know people have waited multiple minutes to try to get through. I think over 30 minutes just in the line. So it's pretty packed in there.
All right. Thank you, Cassie. That's Cassie Sherm reporting for us in front of Fred Meyer tonight in South Anchorage, in front of that Abbott. And I did hear that they were running low on water, some bread, and just be patient if you are going to the grocery store tonight. So Alaska Pure Water Products says that they won't run out of water, though. They purify the water for the city, and you can bring your own container and they can fill it up. And that is on International Airport Road. And so for people who are shortly after the earthquake downtown, Anchorage became gridlocked. We're talking about traffic, wall to wall. The courthouse and many other places felt shaking, and businesses downtown, they closed for the day. So many people were trying to go home at the same time. Some people we talked to said they were evacuating in case of a tsunami. And now most cars sat through several stoplights before getting through. Okay, right now we're going to Dave Goldman. He is live for us tonight, and we're going to check in with Dave. Dave, what is the latest tonight?
Hi, Megan. Yeah, we're here down at the Egan Center, and at this point, you know, after one of these types of incidents, some folks don't have a place to go after an earthquake of this significance. Thankfully, they do here. We're at the Egan Center, and Greg Spears, the general manager of the Egan Center and a number of places in the Anchorage area, joins me tonight. Thanks for taking some time out, too, Mr. Spears. This is a place now, and we want to get the word right out to folks that if you don't have a place to go, or perhaps your home isn't structurally safe, this is a spot to come to, isn't it?
If you need to get warmed up, you don't have power or heat at your house, you're welcome to come to the Egan Center for the next 24 hours. We're working with the Red Cross to provide sheltering, providing food service as well. So absolutely, come on down.
This is obviously, as we were talking before, everybody felt it in Anchorage. You felt it here today, too. But this place is rock solid, man. Like a tank here. So this is a good spot tonight. You said engineers have been here, structurally sound, and everything's safe?
AFD has come through and inspected the building. We're fine here. This building is built like a tank, so no damage here at all. So welcome to come on down. Be safe, be warm.
Okay, so you've got, you mentioned, space for a good group of people, a big number tonight if folks don't have a spot to go to, yes?
We're setting up for 100 people, but we could accommodate more than that if need be.
Okay. You, as we mentioned, are the general manager of a number of places around town, including here, the Denina Center. Tell us about the places that you're in charge of and if those places are also structurally sound.
Right. Everyone's structurally sound. The Denina did have some water leaks, some glycol leaks over there. May take us a couple of days to get that one cleaned up and reopened. All of the events have canceled for this weekend with the exception of Hanukkah celebration, which will happen on time on Sunday.
Okay. You also mentioned Sullivan Arena as well, too, and that took a little bit of a hit, yes?
Sullivan Arena had some building damage, and we're inspecting that and working with the city on getting that reopened as well.
Okay, and Ben Boki as well, and Dempsey Anderson, too?
Correct.
Okay, so overall, though, not too bad.
Not too bad. We'll be back in business Monday morning.
All right. Good to hear that. So again, for folks who are watching who may not have a place to go tonight, concerned about where you're living, this is a spot to be, Egan Center. It's warm, it's comfortable. You got a great host here in Greg Egan and the staff here, although he's going to go home. He's had a long day here, needs a little shut-eye, and then comes back in. But again, they've got room for 100 people and even more than that. So it's a good place to know for a lot of folks here tonight. Megan, let's send it back to you at the studio.
All right, Dave Golden reporting for us from downtown Anchorage. Thank you, Dave. We're going to toss it over to Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry right now, and let's talk about those aftershocks.
Yeah, pretty serious aftershocks. We've had, again, at least 4. They've been magnitude 5.0 or larger. And after you've been through that initial one and seen the damage and destruction that you can get with it, each one is rattling, even if it's not as strong or doesn't cause as much damage. So just know that, yes, we will continue to see that potential for aftershocks here through the afternoon, into the evening, even into the coming days and weeks. Again, the initial quake was a magnitude 7.0. This was 7 miles north of Anchorage, 27 miles deep. That is a shallow quake. Again, the one that we saw back in January of 2016, you remember that one, the 7.1? That was about 75 miles deep, so this was significantly more shallow. It was also significantly closer, again, basically just right there across the Kinnick Arm from us here in Anchorage and from Wasilla, where that 7.1 back in 2016, that was 160 miles offshore. So that's why we are seeing such a contrast in the amount of damage. Again, this easily the largest quake that we have seen in a long time. Now, looking at the number of reported aftershocks now, 126 just of magnitude 4.0 or larger. So let that soak in for just a moment. Again, 126 aftershocks, magnitude 4.0 or larger. Any single one of those 126 aftershocks would have been a significant event, something that I would have reported on. But again, we have had just so many of those. Just shows you the magnitude and scale of this earthquake event. It wasn't just the initial quake that caused some damage and just rattled us here across town. Now, we've seen more than 330 aftershocks of magnitude 3.0 or greater. Again, we're seeing in the thousands in terms of magnitude earthquakes as a whole in terms of those aftershocks. This is a map of the shaking that we saw across town, the shaking lasting about 30 seconds. We still have a 4% chance of a magnitude 7.0 or larger quake for us. Again, it is a relatively low percentage, so it's highly unlikely. There is that potential. However, magnitude 6.0 or larger, you see the percentage goes up, a 27% chance of that happening, 78% chance of a 5.0 or greater aftershock, and again, still expecting more than 2,000 aftershocks greater than a magnitude 3, and all of those could be felt. Now, in addition to the earthquake and the cleanup efforts that are happening now across town, we are also preparing for a storm tonight. It's 29 degrees. It's been below freezing. Temperatures aren't going to drop much further as we head into the night. It is, however, significantly colder on the east side of town, down to 21 degrees at the Camel Creek Science Center, just 24 on Muldoon and Jay Bear. So again, if you don't have a safe place to seek shelter where it's warm, if you've had to evacuate your home or can't get to where you need to go to stay warm, again, the Egan Warming Center is open. That will stay open through the night, and Red Cross is working to open additional shelters, and we'll update you if they do get more open. Here's a look at those current conditions across the region. Again, we saw significant widespread damage across Wasilla and Homer this morning and afternoon as well. Not seeing any damage down in Kenai, but there it is on the radar. You can see that storm already bringing rain to Homer, snow showers moving up the Cook Inlet as we speak. This is going to continue to push into the Anchorage Bowl, expecting to see light snow showers overnight tonight. Those will continue into early tomorrow morning. You see the blues and purples and whites on the map. That's all snowfall. So the entire Turnagain Arm, all the way up the Glen Highway, up to the Parks Highway, all the way up through Talkeetna. Again, snow on the way for tonight. There's a catch, though. Warmer air also on the way for tonight. That's going to mix that snow to rain and freezing rain early tomorrow morning. By 10 o'clock tomorrow night, we're completely in the clear in terms of precipitation. So drier weather is on the way once we get through this storm by tomorrow evening. So again, we'll continue to keep you updated on those aftershocks as they come in. Just know that there is still that potential. It's still very important that you continue to keep your earthquake preparedness and safety instructions in place and be mindful of those, to stop where you are, to drop and to cover and to hold on. So you find any sort of table where you are, get underneath it and hold on until the shaking stops. Do not evacuate until the shaking stops, even though that is sort of your first inclination to do that. There is easily ceiling tiles, things attached to the ceiling, walls, both inside and outside the building that can fall on you while things are still shaking. So make sure that you stop, drop, and hold on until that earthquake and that shaking has stopped. And again, even with these aftershocks, people still need to be doing that. Megan, I'll send it back to you.
All right, sound advice. Thank you, Melissa. Now we want to show you video. The Jubilee Christian Center in Fairview. The church, it caught on fire shortly after the earthquake ended. The pastor's daughter said that emergency responders told her a power line appears to have fallen on the roof, lighting a fire inside the sanctuary. Sean Brownfield was nearby and she felt the ground shaking and then saw the fire start.
A movie. I called my mom. I was like, yo, Mom, it was an earthquake. I love you. They said it's a tsunami. I was all, hysterical, of course, breathing all heavy. It was crazy. I called 911 immediately. Like, yo, the house, the church is on fire, whoop, whoop. Ran over here to the house, ran in there, checked on my aunt and them, then ran up the street to my grandma's house on the Tush. It's crazy.
So no word just yet on how much that fire caused. So another place affected by the earthquake, our very own newsroom. KTVA 11's Joe Vigil joins us now live to talk about the mess we worked in today to bring you today's news coverage. Hi, Joe.
Megan, excuse me, as I see this, it's still hard to believe that it actually happened. Here's some debris right here that came down from the ceiling. If you look over here, you can see the tiles from the ceiling are gone. And if you go to the right here and see this big wooden piece right here, that's not sound at this point, so we can't go underneath it. People were working in the newsroom when this happened, John Thompson being one of them, the Daybreak anchor. John, explain what this felt like when it happened.
Oh, man, well, I was sitting right in this chair. It was, 8:30-ish, 8:29, and you just heard a loud, thunderous just roar almost, and the building violently shook, and it didn't feel like a typical earthquake that we feel here. And what we learned from day one, if you go to school here and are raised in Alaska, you get under the desk.
And that's what you did.
That's what I did. I'll just show you real quick because and then under the desk, plenty of room down here, and just kind of waited it out. Jeremy Legou, our meteorologist, was in the desk next to me, and we were just, hey, man, you all right? And then once the shake and stop, everybody got out and ran outside, and then there was that aftershock about 5.7, and that violently shook the building. We're standing back in the parking lot here at the Denali Media Building, and stuff was falling off the roof. Windows were blowing out. So it was, very vicious, and as you can see.
All right. Well, John, thanks. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad everybody else is okay. By the way, no injuries from all of this. So I walk over here, and you can see more debris. Right here are where producers and reporters sit, and we work on our stories. A couple guys still working right here. May not look functional in here, but it certainly is. We have computers up. We have phone service. We're making phone calls. We're getting you information. This is the assignment desk up here. You can see more debris. And then this is probably the biggest pile right here. This all didn't fall right here. Basically, this is where they've been piling it all. But again, these are the ceiling tiles in our newsroom. It's still soggy. I don't know if you can hear that. It's still soggy on the ground from water that was leaking. And then right over here is a spot where we do some editing. These are all edit bays over here. You can see that the glass walls of the edit bays shattered. And then this is one edit bay that looks like it's pretty much complete loss over here. And then over here we have just more things that fell, and look at the ceiling right here. I mean, all these tiles are gone, and boy, kind of hard not to get emotional looking at this. But you know, the great thing is nobody was hurt. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was killed, and we're thankful for that, and we'll continue to work hard to give you the news that you need. Megan, back to you.
All right, Joe, thank you. And we do want to remind people that the inbound Glen Highway will be closed tonight per Anchorage Police as they work on that. And you can still go outbound, though. Outbound on the Glen Highway is still open. With that, Governor Walker, he surveyed the damage today in a Black Hawk to see all of South Central, the roadways, and he had a press conference earlier today on J-Bear, and that's where we're going to find Daniela Rivera reporting for us tonight with the very latest. Hi, Daniela.
Hi, Megan. So Governor Walker was speaking here today publicly. He talked about steps he's taken since the earthquake this morning. He issued a disaster declaration for Alaska, which he says has been accepted by the federal government. And he also said that while he was on that ride in the Black Hawk, he got multiple calls from President Trump. Of course, it's not a very good environment to hear a phone call on. He was able to connect with the president following that, and he said that President Trump has assured him that he will help Alaskans. The president also tweeted today he will spare no expense. That's something that Governor Walker said that he believes. He said that Governor Walker again, or that President Trump, multiple attempts to reach him, they've been in contact. And that disaster declaration, which has been accepted, is going to generate some relief funds for Alaskans. Now, there's no cap on that. We don't know what the amount will be, but he said that didn't even come up during the conversation. There wasn't a limit, that President Trump just said he's going to do what it takes to help out Alaskans. We'll go ahead and let you hear a bit from the governor's press conference.
That was his message. It was not about here's what we'll do. He said we're gonna fix Alaska, and so we're gonna make sure you're you know, we'll help you get this taken care of. And I was very pleased about that.
As far as immediate impacts or fixes, we're not going to see anything right away when it comes to those roadways, the infrastructure, which is mainly what he was able to see from the air today. We talked about the Glen Highway issues there, police working to get that drivable again. But Governor Walker said the damage we've sustained to our road system, our infrastructure here, is not going to be a quick fix. It's not something that's going to be fixed in a week or two. It's going to require time. It's going to require patience, and hopefully it will be aided by the help of the federal government. Governor Walker also teared up when he was talking about how far we've come since the 1964 earthquake. He talked about building codes and talked about reinforcements he put into his own house. He got emotional saying he was so glad that he did that. He also talked about how we haven't seen the loss of life here today in Alaska, thankfully, that other regions have experienced with earthquakes of far less magnitudes than what we saw today. This was a 7.0 magnitude earthquake here in Alaska. Governor Walker called Alaska's response to that a 10. Now, that was comments echoed by Anchorage Mayor Ethan Berkowitz. He also spoke briefly, thanking Alaskans for pulling together and not overloading our emergency lines today. Megan?
All right, Daniela Rivera reporting for us at J-Bear tonight. Daniela, thank you. Shortly after the earthquake downtown, Anchorage became gridlocked with traffic. The courthouse and many other businesses downtown, they closed for the day. So many people were trying to go home at the same time. All muni offices were closed, including the shelter, people mover, anchor rides, things like that. And some people we talked to said they were evacuating in case of a tsunami earlier this morning. Most cars, though, sat through several stoplights before getting through.
It's about as bad as like on Ferrandi night. Everybody's trying to get out, so.
I'm trying to get to Romig to get my daughter, and it looks like it's going to be, normally it takes me 10 minutes from government here, but I don't know.
No, I've never seen this traffic before. You know, it's slow. I mean, everybody wants to go home.
So traffic was bad, and there were rock slides on the Seward Highway along Turnagain Arm. Those have since been cleared. And just a reminder again that inbound Glen Highway will close at 5 p.m. tonight, so it is closed tonight. We're going to talk weather now. Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry, she joins us now. And let's talk about that tsunami warning that was later canceled.
Yeah, so first of all, there was no concern of a tsunami danger here in Anchorage, which is almost always going to be the case. So again, if you are an Anchorage resident and you have been concerned of that potential for a tsunami here in town, that is not likely going to be the case with the large earthquake. The way the Cook Inlet, the geography of it is situated, is highly unlikely that we would get a large destructive tsunami here in Anchorage. So just keep that in mind for future earthquakes. If you're in Anchorage, even if you're down near the bluff, down near Oceanside, you do not need to be worried about a tsunami. Again, if we did get one, it would be from something likely different, like a landslide or volcano eruption, something like that. So just keep that in mind. We did, however, have a tsunami warning in effect for Seward, Homer, and Kodiak. That was canceled pretty quickly after the event once they were able to assess that no tsunami was generated. Again, no tsunami was ever generated from this particular event. If you're just joining us, I want to show you on the map where this hit. Again, a magnitude 7.0 earthquake hitting at 8:29 early. This morning, again, rattling the entire city, lasting about 30 seconds is how long that shaking lasted. Again, it was only about 27 miles deep, and on the scale,
of Anchorage to check out the damage earlier today.
Channel 2's Rich Maurer was there as the governor gave his report to the entire state. Live on Channel 2.
He basically talked about how much he really appreciated Alaskans helping Alaskans, how much he appreciated the first responders, how much he appreciated even the federal government coming in and offering assistance. Which brings us to another point. The people, we're in the State Emergency Operations Center here. You can see there's a lot of activity here. People are calling in with damage to their houses. They're saying, don't do that. Call your local government, call your municipality, report it, take a picture, document it somehow, and then make a repair. And if you need to file with the state or file with your insurance company, but no one knows at this point what the disaster declaration means in terms of who's paying for what. So there's no point calling the state at this point. You're just clogging up a line. Mike?
I can't say enough about the first responders. As we flew over the highways that were traffic diverted, they were there immediately, putting people over on the other side of the highway, closing down some of the highways. Some of it was done in precautionary stage. The airport, the upper ramps were closed just to check those out first. Those are now all open again.
And there's been a lot of closures for people checking things out. The railroad was closed today while people check out the tracks and the line. The Trans-Alaska Pipeline was closed for a while, but now has been reopened with no damage found. So all in all, it was a major quake, but there's not a lot of damage. Rich Maurer?
All right. Rich Maurer reporting live for us tonight. Rich, thanks for the update. Now, Rebecca, one of the images from this quake that I think we're all going to remember for years was that scene of what happened at Minnesota Drive and International Airport Road.
It definitely was. A couple went into a wild ride. The road beneath them collapses. Channel 2's Hank Davis is there live tonight. Hank.
That's right, Mike, Rebecca. I think that everyone in Southeast Alaska got that complimentary wake-up call at around 8:30 this morning. That earthquake rocking the area and doing some damage. We're still at the scene of some of the worst of that damage. You mentioned Minnesota Drive behind the camera. This is the on-ramp. This gets up onto the International Airport Road, heads to the airport. Very busy area, a lot of travel. So you can see the crews out here working diligently. Their goal right now is to get that sinkhole cleared out, get rid of all the loose material that the earthquake shook around, and then to get this road operating back normal again. You know, the on-ramp southbound also shut down right now. They've got a crew over there assessing that damage as well. For now, they're asking people to kind of plan around this area, not to go there. We actually talked to some of the MDOT crew, or some of the Department of Transportation crew members earlier this afternoon. They told us a little bit about the project, and we caught up with the couple that was inside of a car that was inside of that sinkhole hours ago.
Well, the whole car started weaving, and so we started slowing down, and as we went up the on-ramp, everything around us started crumbling away. Yeah, it was a little scary.
You can see that they were actually in pretty good spirits. Their car slowly sank down into the bottom of that sinkhole. Neither of those passengers injured. They got their car out safely. No damage to the car, surprisingly, but plenty of damage here on the scene. These are just a few of the roads that have been impacted by that earthquake. And again, like I mentioned, if you're trying to get on International Airport Road, you're going to have to pick another intersection. Both the on-ramps in this area closed. Mike, Rebecca?
All right, Hank Davis reporting from Minnesota Drive tonight. Thanks a lot, Hank. We've been reporting all day about the damage and cleanup in the earthquake aftermath.
Now we're hearing more from people who have been directly affected by this event to see how they experienced the earthquake. Channel 2's Derek Mittemeyer joins us live in studio with more. Derek.
Well, Mike and Rebecca, Neil Shelton of Wasilla took a tour of his community just to try to process and assess the extent of this event. This video Shelton took on Vine Road southeast of Wasilla. You can see the extensive damage completely blocking the roadway. Shelton says he was walking down his stairs when the quake struck, that his house felt like it was on springs. He says this was unlike anything he's experienced since moving here from North Carolina, but it's just the reality of living in the state of Alaska.
It's Alaska. Everything, there's no middle ground in Alaska. Everything's extreme, from the seasons to just anything. So it's all, all part of being here. And I actually enjoy it. It was an experience.
Now, Shelton also took a trip to a gas station near his home, Turner's Corner. Coming up later in the news hour, we will hear from the owner of that store about what he lost, as well as what he gained by staying open for business. Mike, Rebecca?
All right, thanks a lot, Derek. So amazing video from that gentleman out there in the valley.
It's shocking to see. I'm so glad nobody was hurt. It's shocking nobody was hurt.
Yeah. All right, the first quake hit at 8:30 this morning. This is still an ongoing situation tonight. Joe Burke is standing by with Anchorage Mayor Ethan Berkowitz. Joe?
Good evening. We're here at the Emergency Operations Center. Just a short while ago, we had a press conference, and the municipal leaders were explaining that they're in the process of pivoting through the initial damage assessment. And Mayor Berkowitz, where do we stand at this time?
I think we're in a position where we're feeling very comfortable with the progress that's been made during the course of the day. We think that things are very stable. Many people have returned home. Most people have returned home. Most of the city water and sewers is back in operation. Power is back on, and we're just getting things back to normal. But it's going to take a while, and we're very grateful that people weren't really hurt in the course of this.
And you had mentioned that you felt that in relationship to the scale of the earthquake, the scale of the damage is smaller than one might anticipate.
We had a 7-point-something earthquake, and when you look at the fact that we had no fatalities and that the amount of infrastructure damage was fairly isolated, the number of structural damage was fairly minimal, you compare it to what would have happened and what has happened in other earthquake-hit areas in the world, we have done amazingly well, and we've done well because we were prepared for an event like this. Our building codes were strong, we built well, and the population here, the Alaskan public, knows what to do and takes care of itself and takes care of one another.
And walk me through the next couple of hours and maybe the next day in terms of priorities. What's the number one priority, and then where do we move on from there in the next 4, 8, 12 hours?
So the immediate priority is to make sure people stay safe, and that if there are folks who are in need of immediate shelter, that we can find shelter for them for the immediate evening and maybe the next day or so. That's the biggest priority. We're going to make sure that there's a lot of first responders who are available to deal with any of the emergencies that might exist, and we are just drawing down some of the initial response, taking a breath, and seeing where we are when we do our next assessment.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Mayor Ethan Berkowitz, City Mayor in Anchorage. So we heard that individuals, residents are being encouraged to boil water. That's a precautionary measure only to make sure that nothing has been contaminated. There are no known issues, but again, the Anchorage AWWU is recommending that people boil their water at this time. We've heard that the north-south road corridors are open. There may be detours and delays. Individuals still encouraged to shelter in place, take care of one another, go out and check on your neighbors as well. Be prepared for those aftershocks. So that means have on hand what you might need to ride something out in case a larger event takes place again. And that would mean have your fire extinguisher, have some flashlights, make sure you have some food and water. They're going to have another update tomorrow, and they're going to work here throughout the evening. Back to you guys.
All right, Jill, thanks so much for the update. And the mayor mentioned, Rebecca, one of their top priorities is making sure people here in Anchorage have a safe and warm place to stay tonight.
That's very important. That's when they were going to turn things over to Beth Verge to tell us a little bit about how that is working out. Beth, where are you? And tell us about what the story is.
Yeah, Mike, Rebecca, I'm outside the Egan Center in downtown Anchorage. Right now, it is bitter cold downtown, but that area is actually serving as a warming shelter for tonight.
I was very, very panicked and quite shaken up.
So we talked a little bit with people who were inside the shelter earlier today. There were less than 24 people in there, and only a handful were there specifically because of the earthquake. But they all said that they were thankful to have a space to go to. As for what's visible here in downtown Anchorage right now, a lot of streets Got the traffic moving, but lights are out in some sections. There are windows that have fallen out of some of the taller buildings, and so there are areas that are cordoned off as well. So you want to watch out for those if you are walking downtown. And then, of course, the icy streets, things like that, the normal, those are all still going on. But again, the Egan Center, is serving as a warming shelter for tonight, and we'll bring you more of this story later in the news hour.
All right, thanks a lot. Beth Verge reporting from downtown Anchorage tonight. We've heard so many here. We're hearing stories from so many of our viewers sharing how they felt as the quake happened.
I love Alaska. I'm not leaving.
That's what a lot of people told us today. Our live coverage continues as we go around South Central to survey the damage. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of this major seismic event that hit the Anchorage area and a big portion of South Central today.
It is all anybody is talking about right now.
Yep. And a lot of people are still dealing with it, trying to get home tonight. We have a helicopter in the air tonight, and Tracy Sinclair is high above the Glen Highway. Tracy, give us an update. How is the traffic situation headed outbound?
Well, we're still dealing, obviously, with some very heavy traffic. We're right near the exit from J-Bear, of course, on the Fort Richardson side. And what I can say is when we first went up in the air at 5 o'clock, there was a massive line of traffic across this bridge all the way into the Fort Ridge area. Now, this has gone down. We've only got about 5 cars on the bridge, so we are starting to see the traffic, at least almost like the tail end. But we're still seeing those cars come in from Anchorage. So at this point, we are just dealing with the heavy traffic, very consistent. Right before the Eagle River Bridge, we go down from 3 lanes down to 1, and that's what's slowing everybody down. Once you get through Eagle River, we do have a bit of a clearing area, and people can move at a higher speed. Things break up a little bit. There's also likely a couple more bottlenecks depending on how far out you are heading. So we want to give everybody a heads up to just kind of hold your patience. We've still got cars coming in on the Glen Highway from the Anchorage area. So we're not quite seeing the end of this yet coming through this night. Mike, Rebecca?
All right, Tracy, thanks so much. And Rebecca, one of the things that Chief Dahl mentioned in their press conference late this afternoon was the chief is cautioning people these road situations are not going to end in a day or two.
No, and it's good to see that more, as he mentioned, more people are getting home at this point. Most people are home for the day. You can definitely see the traffic is lessening out there, which is great. Right. People are getting home safely.
Yep. All right, well, the Glen Highway, the Seward Highway, and several major priority roads in South Central have damage.
We have damage on all of our high priority roads. So the Glen, the Seward, Minnesota, there's a lot of stuff out there. So.
The Department of Transportation says as soon as the quake was over, it had crews out there. They inspected up to 100 miles from the epicenter, and on the Seward Highway, there are still rocks coming down.
We still have rockfall going on the Seward Highway past Potter's Marsh, where you have rocks coming down. With every one of these aftershocks we've received, it's a little more unstable, a little more rock comes down.
Of course, this will take months to fix all of the damage. DOT says it also is closely inspecting all of the bridges in the area.
Yeah, you were supposed to be on a plane to the governor-elect's inauguration
I'm supposed
on
to be
Monday.
leaving on Sunday for that.
Yeah, and we've been told just a few minutes ago that was supposed to be in Norfolk Monday before noon. We're told by Governor-elect Mike Dunleavy's spokesperson just a few minutes ago, those plans are still kind of in flux. They have not made a firm final decision as to whether they're going to proceed with that, of course, with the developments of the day.
And it's interesting, today is actually the Governor Walker's official last day on the job. He was in an elevator at the Atwood building when all of this happened, and quite the last day at work.
Yep, a scary way out. All right.
When we come back, we're going to go talk with Instar about gas safety. The company says it has been very busy fixing leaks today. Into the mix to talk about the earthquakes we've been having today.
You know, Jackie and I were talking about this earlier. It's when you look on the map, it looks like a swarm of earthquakes. We had the big one hit just a few.
Say like it's like every 30 minutes now.
I was looking at the charts, and it seemed like every 30 minutes. And I think we're going to go to Jackie now, who's got a chart up.
That's right. I got the weather computer up so you can see that swarm of earthquakes there that have resulted as a result of an outcropping of the original earthquake that happened this morning at 8:29 a.m. So let's take a look at that graphic again, because we're going to show you what is causing these earthquakes. It's a very tectonically oriented place here in Alaska. We've had at least 14 aftershocks since this morning, ranging from 4.0 to 5.7 magnitude. It's all because of the Pacific plate sliding underneath the North American plate, and that boundary is right along the Aleutians. It's called a mega thrust boundary, and when that plate slides underneath, there is slippage, and sometimes it's a big jolt to the terrain on the surface. So that is exactly the type of situation that happened for us today, that 7.0 magnitude earthquake this morning. And for our current conditions right now, it's been a fairly mild day, 25 degrees. The winds are calm, and that is seen out of Cuddy Park here in Midtown. Now, for tonight, we'll see some snowfall. It could be up to an inch into the later hours, and then start mixing with rain and snow. Yes, that's the danger. Here's a look at, did you see that shift? Well, that was when the earthquake occurred, and this was really from the early morning hours out of our Glen Alps camera. Here's a look at the Pacific, and we're going to kind of wind it up and push it into the state of Alaska, where we see a fairly vigorous storm system starting to blast through the southwestern part of the state. Started really last night, but here they are with some mix of rain and snow coming their way. A lot of that cloud cover continuing to push all the way into the interior, sliding into south central as we speak, really. So there it is, the messy situation over southwest Alaska. A little bit of snow way up there toward Hooper Bay, but then that rain snow line and then that push of warm air, turning a lot of that to just plain rain. They're looking pretty quiet into the interior, at at least in the last several hours. They're cold, too, 1 below. We even see sub-zero temperatures around Ukqiavik, 5 at Dead Horse, 29 back into the Anchorage area. And wow, look at those temperatures out through the Aleutians. And these are the kinds of temperatures that are going to be swinging in and swinging our way across the south central area. I am still on track to see temperatures go up to the low 40s for daytime highs tomorrow here into Anchorage. Well, we're going to continue to see a series of low pressure systems move on through. Here we are into the Saturday time frame, and there's still going to be a host of winter weather advisories, maybe even warnings, along with some gusty winds along those coastal areas as this series of low pressure systems just makes a parade line right up the west coast. Now, for your forecast, it's south central that we're looking at, and we'll see some snow Friday, maybe even some freezing rain into the forecast for your Saturday. Those temperatures are going to slowly start to come up. Here's a look at our 7-day forecast for the Anchorage area, going for that rain-snow mix tomorrow. 36 for the high temperature on Sunday and Monday. A little bit of a cool down on Tuesday, but again, on the above average side of winter. Here we go. A mix of rain and snow entering the region. It's going to be a weekend of cleanup because of all the, displaced items from this earthquake. But let's end it with saying, have a pleasant weekend, everyone.
A good positive thought. Another blessing
really,
of this, Jackie, we're not dealing with bitterly cold, sub-zero temperatures.
That is so true, Mike and Rebecca, yeah.
All right, we'll see you back in a few minutes. All right, looking for major infrastructure issues. Coming up on the News Hour, we'll have an update on the condition of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline after this big earthquake. All right, welcome back. All of the big shaking today threw businesses for a loop during today's earthquake.
Now, what's the impact like for small businesses? Channel 2's Kaylinda Kendall has the details from small business owners today.
Hi there, Mike and Rebecca. Well, small business owners told me they are feeling the impact after today's earthquake. I caught up with one owner of Pete's Violin Shop who says he has tens of thousands of dollars worth of instruments destroyed. Outside Peter's Violin Shop, it looks like a normal day. But inside shows a very different story.
Open the door and see this, so it takes a while to sink in.
After a 7.0 magnitude earthquake, the damage is setting in for owner Peter Buczynski of Peter's Violin Shop.
Pretty impressive here.
Around each corner, more and more destruction.
It's amazing. Something like this can survive 100 years, and then you have an earthquake.
Buczynski said he opted out of earthquake insurance.
As a small business owner, you don't think about a total loss, and this was not a total loss, but you don't really, you kind of look at the premiums and it's so expensive, and especially the earthquake we had a few years ago. I looked into it after that, and the quote they gave me was, pretty high, and I figured, I could do it, but, it's hard enough running a small business as it is in today's economy, but everything you add on top of it, it's almost you can't make ends meet.
Now feeling the impact, he knows he has more problems with the power out.
40%. Once it drops to 39, 38%, then we start having problems. All of these instruments in here are made out of wood, and when it drops below 40%, the instruments start drying out and cracking.
But he says he hasn't lost hope.
But we'll get through it like we do. Alaskans are tough, and we all come together. We'll make it work.
Kaylinda Kindle, Channel 2 News. Now, the owner says for all small business owners, he's hopeful that Alaskans will come together during this difficult time. Mike and Rebecca.
Thanks so much, Kaylinda. After the break, we're going to go back to Jill Burke. She is standing by with the department chair and the fire chief for the Anchorage Fire Department. Back, it was a pretty scary situation. Immediately after the earthquake, a house caught fire in Midtown, burning it to the ground.
Now, luckily, no one was injured in that fire, but the home is believed to be a total loss. Channel 2 Sean McGuire is live tonight from the site of that fire and has more about how to stay safe during an earthquake and gas leaks. Sean?
Mike and Rebecca, the big message from NSAR at the moment is that if you suspect there is a gas leak or you smell a gas leak, you need to get out of your house immediately, call NSAR, then they'll send a crew to make sure it's safe before you enter. Now, if you look behind me, you'll see the house is looking like a near total loss. The garage area is lit up. They think they may have been able to save that. Firefighters are coming back and forth doing what's called fire follow-up. That's where they're going to spray water on areas that are hot to try and cool them down, to try and stop another fire from starting and potentially destroying the house further. This morning when firefighters arrived, they arrived to a very different scene.
Billowing smoke seen for miles around near 76th Avenue and C Street.
We got a call right after the earthquake. It stated there was smoke coming from the structure, and due to the earthquake, all units are responding everywhere else around the city. We were a single unit resource initially, and got here, and then they upgraded it, and then had to divide all the units back out amongst all the other problems around the city. So
passers-by saw a house fully engulfed. The home was a total loss. Firefighters worked into the late morning to save the garage.
Nah, the earthquake probably was a contributing factor, but won't know until we do an investigation on it once we have the sources available. No. It's a long morning.
Rose Sandhofer says her father and stepmother lived in the house and they were able to get out safely.
But the house has been there for a long time. He came up in 58, and the house was like built in the early 60s. So it has been in the neighborhood for a long time.
NSTAR crews were also there, making sure there weren't any gas leaks.
We were just there for precautionary purposes, making sure that it wasn't gas-related, which it appears that it was not.
A home lost, but a loss put in perspective.
Totally happy that nobody's hurt. It could have been a lot worse.
Now, APD crews have been busy all day, but so have NSTAR crews who have been working across their service area to try and assess potential damage to gas lines as well as to fix gas leaks. Now, crews are working over 3,000 miles of natural gas pipe from Houston all the way down to Homer. Now, the most damage is believed to be in Eagle River, close to the epicenter of the earthquake. I'm told downtown is also an area of interest because there is steel pipe that is more liable to split than the plastic pipe used across most of the service area. NSTAR's President John Sims has this recommendation about how to stay safe.
At this point in time, we're responding to about 170 pending calls for leaks that people have smelled for gas. If you are a customer that smells gas, please leave the area and then call NSTAR Natural Gas, and we will respond as quickly as possible.
Now, Sims says there are 12 workers coming up from the lower 48 to help NSTAR in their efforts to fix and assess all the pipe before everything is back to normal, which should be in days rather than hours. Mike and Rebecca.
All right, thanks so much, Sean. Well, Governor Bill Walker took a tour of Anchorage from the air today to look at the damage.
And the governor and several other state officials held a news conference this afternoon to talk about what they saw, and Rich Maurer was there to hear that briefing. He's going to give us a briefing now, Rich.
Yeah, Mike, Rebecca. So Governor Walker spoke upstairs at a press conference. Right now we're in the basement of the state armory, and it's kind of emptying out now as people try, and they're going to be working all weekend. They're going to be working 24 hours, and they want to give some time off to people so that they can get some sleep.
I can't say enough about the first responders. As we flew over the highways that were traffic diverted, they were there immediately, putting people over on the other side of the highway, closing down some of the highways. Some of it was done in precautionary stage. The airport, the upper ramps were closed just to check those out first. Those are now all open again.
Alaska National Guard is in assessment mode, as is the State Emergency Operations Center. We are forward postured, and we are waiting for the request for assistance. But of course, we just don't deploy on our own. This is a home rule state, and so we have local incident commanders.
The governor and Mayor Berkowitz from the city both praised local residents for their calm, and also the first responders who came to the rescue. Rich Maurer, Channel 2 News.
All right, Rich, thanks so much. Coming up on the News Hour, more of our continuing coverage of this major earthquake that hit Anchorage and the surrounding area earlier today. It has been quite a day. We'll see you back in just a minute.